Hi, I'm Kristine. I'm the flute coach with the Michael J. Owens Music Education Fund. Okay, how do I hold this thing? I know I hold it sideways, but what do I do? So like we were doing with the head joint only, the flute is going to go off to your right side. If you just hold the flute however you want and bring the embouchure hole up to your mouth like you did with the head joint, I'm just holding it right here. This is a good way to make sure you found your sweet spot without having your hands in the right order yet. So let's practice doing that. I'm gripping my left hand around like I'm going to hug somebody here, and then my right hand comes up and just holds here, not squeezing too tight. That's kind of where our hands are going to be on the body of the flute. Once you've got that, what I want you to do is take your right hand and move it so that your pinky holds the first key of the foot joint. Your pinky is going to press that key down, and your thumb is going to sit on the body of the flute comfortably. You're going to use the pad of your thumb to hold the flute, not the knuckle, and definitely not this little nook here. So we're going to use the pad of our thumb, hold the flute, and then our pinky rests on the first key of the foot joint. And that's all. That's all we're going to do for now. The next thing we're going to do is learn where our left hand goes. And you'll notice that on my flute, I have put on these little soft pads. I usually do this for all my students so that they know exactly where their hands are supposed to go. So the next time I see you, or if another coach is at your school, see if they can buy moleskin pads to put on their flutes so they can put them on the flute exactly where your fingers are supposed to go, so there are no questions. I also have one on my thumb. My left hand comes over, and I'm going to put the lowest knuckle of my index finger sit on the flute. It does not sit away from the flute. It's going to rest directly on the flute. My thumb comes around, and it's going to hit this key right here. My index finger knuckles here, my thumb is here, and then I'm going to bend my first finger down and place it on the second key on the flute. So we're not going to hit this key with any finger. We're going to hit the second key on the body of the flute. So we have our thumb here on this pad, we have our pinky on the first foot joint key, we have our thumb on this key, and we have our first finger here. This note is called B. So once your fingers are in place, let's put the flute on our lap, but leave your fingers exactly on that B position. And what I want you to do is I want you to sit up nice and straight, and then we're going to bring the flute up to us, trying to keep our neck as still as possible, trying to keep our shoulders as still as possible. We're just going to use our arms, and we're going to raise the flute up, find that sweet spot, and blow for our B sound. If you get a high sound, that's okay too. And then we'll bring the flute down. This is the weirdest part of the flute because all other instruments can see what they're doing. The flute cannot see what they're doing with their fingers. So clarinets can do do. We cannot. The flute comes to the side. We can't see it. So I like to leave my fingers on their keys at the beginning, just so I don't have to keep looking over and wondering, am I doing this right? You're doing it right. So leave it in your lap, bring your arms up, find that sweet spot, and blow. And then put it back down. Let's do it one more time. See if you can get the high note this time, the high sound. And then put it down. You'll notice that maybe that note was a little hard to hold. Were you putting a little bit of pressure on your chin too while you were playing? Remember, we want to feel like the lip plate of the flute is sitting right here under our chin. So you're pushing the flute on your chin, you're holding the flute with the lower knuckle of your index finger, and the flute is resting on your thumb. Those are our 3 balance points so that the flute sits comfortably in our hands. We are not holding the flute with our pinky on this pinky key. If we do that, the pinky's going to start concaving or bending the wrong way, and it's going to start to hurt. So make sure you're not gripping the flute with your pinky. The flute is resting on your thumb, the flute is resting on your chin, and your index finger is lightly pressing the flute so that it sits on your chin comfortably. So let's find that B position again. Pinky, thumb rest, thumb on the back key, index finger, pressing the flute and pressing the second key on the body. Play a B. Did you use your tongue to start that note? Try it again if you didn't. Okay, leave your fingers in that B position. We're going to learn the second note that I like to teach everyone, and that is A. A is with all fingers in the B position. You're going to skip this key, I call this key the hot lava key. We never touch it. We're going to skip this key and put our middle finger on the very next key. My students, usually I put stickers on their flute on the hot lava keys. So you can always see the stickers when you're playing, so you know that you're pressing the right keys. I don't have any stickers on this flute, sorry. So we had our B, put your middle finger down, and we have our A. Let's see what that one sounds like. So the flute's in our lap, sitting up nice and straight. We'll raise our arms, put the flute on our lips, and we'll blow using our tongue to start that A. Try it again. And remember, if you're getting the high sound, that's okay too. If you're getting a super high sound, you're blowing a little bit too hard, I want you to relax your air and relax your lips. We want to get one of these two sounds. The last note that I'll teach you today is the note G. If you leave your fingers in the A position, all we need to do is throw our ring finger down. So we have ring finger, middle finger, pointer finger, thumb, and pinky. Notice that to play these notes, I left my fingers down. So when I played B and then I switched to A, this pointer finger stayed down that whole time. The same thing's going to happen for when we switch to G. All these two fingers are going to stay down, thumb is going to stay down, pinky is going to stay down, and then we're going to add our ring finger down too. So all those fingers are pressing down, closing the keys tightly, not squeezing, but just pressing the keys down so that we know that all the holes under are sealed. So we have our G, put the flute in your lap, sit up straight, try not to move your neck, keep your chin up high, and bring the flute up, and let's blow. Let's try again. Use your tongue to start. And it's okay if you get this sound. Totally fine. Make sure your thumb is always touching the flute. Is your index finger touching the flute? I should not be able to stick a pencil right here while you're playing the flute. Your index finger should always be touching the flute. So if it's not, or if you're noticing something feels weird, if you notice your thumb is like trying to grip the flute like this, back it up. Make sure you're using the pad of your thumb so that the flute can rest on that. I see a lot of this right away. The flute is not going to drop from your hands if it's resting here on your chin, if you're pressing lightly with your index finger, and if you allow the flute to rest on your thumb, you are not going to drop the flute. Let's try that G one last time. Thumb, index finger, skip this key, middle finger, ring finger, pinky, flute rests on the thumb. Now for fun, we can play hot cross buns, and that is the notes B, A, G, and then again B, A, G. We'll just play the beginning part of hot cross buns. I'll play it first and then you can copy at home. So I'll bring the flute up. I'm going to start with B, thumb, pointer finger, pinky, resting on the thumb. 1, here we go. So all I did was change B, A, G, B, A, G, and I was using my tongue to start every note. Were you? It's hard, I know, remembering all these things. Let's try that one more time. B, A, G, B, A, G. You can also try, if blowing into the flute and moving your fingers is a little hard right now, I like to rest my flute on my leg, get my fingers in position, and say the notes as I finger the notes before I play the actual song. So let's do that together. So the flute's resting on my knee, and we have B, A, G, switch, B, A, G, got it. Put the flute on your lap, bring it up, don't move your neck, keep your chin up high. In the B position, let's try hot cross buns. 1, 2, 3. And then the next part of the song, if you want, goes G, 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 A, 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 B, A, G. So to play all those B's and A's and G's in a row, remember we're going to use our tongue to separate those notes. Notice how my lips are staying pretty still in between when I'm switching notes, but my tongue is doing all the work. So one thing that lots of students like to do at the beginning of the flute is I like to call those fish lips. Don't let yourself go into fish lip mode. Keep your lips nice and still and let your tongue do all the work to change those notes. So you have to keep your lips really still, really firm, especially in the corners, and don't let this upper lip move as you're playing. So let's try that second part of hot cross buns. We have 4 G's, 4 A's, and then it's the same as the beginning, B, A, G. Here's the second part, hot cross buns. 1, 2, 3. How did you do? Did your lips move? Did you breathe in between every note? You shouldn't have to. Breathe after every 2 notes if you can help it. And after, you can play the first part and the second part. See if you can put all the parts together. Let's try that now. Hot cross buns. Starting with B. 1, 2, 3. Now that we're done playing, it's time to put the flute away. So make sure, again, you have a sturdy, flat surface to put your flute away on. And we're going to grab the case, open up the flute case. I start by taking my flute all the way apart, and I put the pieces in the case the way that they go, the way that they fit. For the body of the flute, we have this key right here that sticks out, the A flat key. All flute cases have a special spot for their 8-flat key, and unfortunately they're not all the same, so make sure you can find the groove in your case where the A-flat key fits and that the body faces the correct way. Then I take my cleaning cloth and my cleaning stick, thread the needle, I wrap a little bit around, I take my head joint, twirl it around a few times, that should be good, and then I stick the head joint back where it belongs. Then I loosen the cloth a little bit from the stick, and all I do is I take the stick, drop it in the foot joint, pull through, all done. And then I do the same for the body. Take the stick, drop it in, grab it from the other side, and pull through. I like to do it this way instead of wrapping my cloth around and then the stick in the flute, because sometimes our cloths are too thick and they get stuck inside the flute and it's really hard to get them out. So I really, really recommend taking the stick, loosening the cloth, and drop it and pull. It's less likely to get stuck that way, especially if you're at home and it might be difficult to get apart without a teacher to help you do that safely. Then, if your case has a spot for it, put the stick in that spot, fold the cloth up neatly. My case actually doesn't, but I'll show you what yours probably has. So I fold my cloth up, not very thick because it can just rest on the flute, and then voila, I shut the flute and it's over.